It was a Tuesday, late afternoon. The sun had dipped just enough to cast those sharp shadows across the floor of his office, the kind that made everything feel colder than it was. I was standing across from his desk, my fingers gripping a neatly printed business proposal I'd been working on for weeks. My voice had just stopped talking. I had finished the pitch. I was proud, a little nervous, but I thought I'd nailed it. He didn't even look at the papers. He leaned back in his chair, exhaled through his nose, and gave me that tight, condescending half-smile I'd seen too many times. Then he said it. "You'll never run a company, Alyssa." I blinked.
Once.
His voice was calm, like he was doing me a favor. "You're sweet. Driven, sure. But leadership? That's not your thing." My heart thudded, but I didn't say anything. I just looked at him, right into his eyes. He didn't flinch. He shrugged, like this was just objective truth. "I mean, come on. Founders? They're sharks.
You're more a dolphin."
Pretty smart, but you'll get eaten out there." A dolphin? That's what he called me. I swallowed hard, my throat thick and dry. I could feel the heat rise in my cheeks, not from embarrassment, from the humiliation of having believed he'd see me differently. But I didn't let a single tear fall. Not one. I nodded once, slowly, tucked the proposal back into my bag, and walked out of his office. Past the assistant who gave me a quick sympathetic glance. Down the elevator with its mirrored walls, where I could barely look at my own reflection. By the time I got to my car, my legs felt like jelly. I sat behind the wheel, staring out the windshield, my keys still in my hand. He really said that. He really meant it. "You'll never run a company." Let me rewind. That wasn't the first time someone tried to shrink me. It just happened to be the last time I let them. But at that moment, parked outside that slick downtown building with tears welling up in the corners of my eyes, I still believed him, even if just a little. That belief, it stuck in my chest like a splinter. I drove home in silence. No music. No calls. The world outside kept spinning. People crossing streets, delivery trucks honking, birds flying by as if nothing had happened. But something had. Something shifted inside me. I didn't cry that night. I just stared at the ceiling in the dark. Over and over, I heard it in my head. "You'll never run a company." It echoed like a dare. That man, Thomas Keller, had been my mentor, sort of. A senior executive at the firm I worked for.
Slick.
Sharp suits. Ivy League. People practically worshipped him. And for a while, I did too. He saw something in me early on. Gave me projects, pulled me into meetings, told me I had potential. But the moment I tried to step out from under him, the moment I pitched something of my own, I became a threat. An inconvenience. A dolphin. That wasn't the first time he dismissed a woman with a dream. But it would be the last time he dismissed me. I didn't quit right away. I came in the next morning like nothing had happened. Smiled at the receptionist. Sat through a meeting while he cracked jokes that made the room laugh and me shrink a little smaller. But inside, something had flipped. I stopped talking so much. I stopped asking for advice. I stopped waiting for someone to say I was ready. I started planning in silence. I researched until 2 a.m. most nights. Read every book on startups, funding, leadership, and team building I could get my hands on. I scribbled ideas in notebooks, napkins, phone notes. I built mock-ups, tested things, wrote pitch decks. And every time I doubted myself, I heard him say it again. "You'll never run a company." It became fuel. Not the good kind at first. More like rage. More like, "I'll prove you wrong even if it kills me." But rage, when it's quiet, can be productive. It can build things.
It built me.
One night, 2 months later, I turned down a promotion. Thomas had offered it casually, like a bone tossed to a dog. Operations lead. More responsibility. A good step for someone like you. Someone like me. I declined, politely. Told him I had other plans. He smirked again. "You're going to do that little side project full-time? Come on, Alyssa. You're not built for that kind of stress." I just smiled. That was the last time I ever stepped foot in that building. I launched my first company, Emberline, out of my apartment. I had no team. No funding. Just an idea and a hunger that wouldn't let me sleep. People didn't notice at first. I didn't go viral. I didn't trend. I just worked. Every single day. Quietly. Obsessed. Patient. And then something clicked. The product caught on. Customers came. Investors followed. Not millions, not yet. But enough to grow. Enough to prove that yes, this dolphin could swim with sharks. Hell, I was the damn shark. And then, 2 years later, I started my second company, Havenworks. Same industry. Different mission. Bigger ambition. This time, I had a team. This time, I was ready. The night we crossed our first $1 million in revenue, I opened a bottle of champagne alone on my balcony and toasted the stars. Not because I'd made it, but because I'd made him wrong. And that felt like freedom. I never sent him an update. Never rubbed it in. He can Google me if he wants. But I hope he doesn't. Because I didn't build this for him. I built this for the girl who walked out of his office that day with her voice shaking and her dreams still intact. Sometimes, when people ask me where I got my drive from, I smile and say, my childhood. But I don't mean that in a sweet, nostalgic way. I mean it like a challenge. Like a wound I stitched shut with grit and silence. Growing up in Tucson, Arizona, in a modest house with beige siding and a cracked driveway, I learned very early what it meant to be the helper. My mom used to say I was her little secretary. Alyssa, can you grab my planner? Alyssa, go remind your brother dinner's ready. Alyssa, can you help me sort the coupons? Always the assistant. Never the lead. My older brother, Ryan, was the star. Straight A's. Captain of the soccer team. Dad's pride. Mom's golden boy. When he walked into a room, it was like the volume turned up. People listened.
Cheered.
Noted his presence. When I walked in, I was asked to close the door behind me. I remember one specific night when I was 12. We were sitting around the dinner table, and I'd just won a statewide essay competition. First place. They were even publishing my piece in a local magazine. I was glowing. I waited for someone to ask me about it. They didn't. Ryan was going on and on about his upcoming regional soccer match, and everyone leaned in like it was the Super Bowl. I tried to speak once, actually today in class, but Mom cut me off. Hold on, sweetie, let your brother finish. I walked back to my desk in a daze.
Sat down.
And stared at the Slack notification from Jonah that said,
Hey, pumped to work together on this.
Can we chat later? I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, but because something in me had snapped, and it was so quiet I almost missed it. For the next week, I showed up. I did the work. I smiled in meetings. I answered emails. But inside, something had shifted. Not bitterness. Not even rage. Just clarity. They were never going to hand me the seat. They didn't even see me in the room. All they saw was someone who followed through, who tidied up their brilliance. But I had my own brilliance. And I didn't need their permission to use it. 2 weeks later, I handed in my resignation. Thomas blinked like I'd interrupted a dream. You're leaving? You didn't say anything was wrong. I smiled. You didn't ask. He frowned, leaning back in his chair. Where are you going? I'm starting something, I said calmly. 2 somethings, actually. He blinked. You're starting companies?
Yeah.
There was a pause. Then he let out a chuckle, like I'd said I was going to fly to the moon using a paper plane. Running a company isn't just ideas, Alyssa. You need investors, infrastructure, leadership. And no offense, but I just don't think you're wired for that kind of chaos. You're great at organizing, not risk. There it was. The rejection. The final nail. And it didn't hurt. Not anymore. I stood up, held out my hand, and said, You'll hear about me. The day after I left Blue Ridge, I turned off my phone for the first time in years. Not silent. Not do not disturb. Off. I walked to a nearby cafe, got a coffee, and sat outside watching the city buzz around me. People racing between crosswalks, barking into their phones, staring at their watches like time owed them something. I just watched. For the first time, I wasn't chasing anything. No one needed me. No one was waiting for a spreadsheet, a recap, a favor, a backup plan. I had vanished, and it felt like relief. I deleted Slack, unsubscribed from LinkedIn updates, unfollowed every old colleague who had ever clapped harder for Jonah than for me. I didn't post a dramatic exit. No long farewell to corporate life caption. I didn't owe anyone my journey. I wasn't leaving to prove anything. I was leaving to finally become myself. For the next 2 months, I poured myself into building. No funding. No co-founders.
Just me.
I set up a tiny home office in my Denver apartment, whiteboard, secondhand desk, one plant I constantly forgot to water. I named my first venture, Emberline, a strategic consulting boutique focused on helping minority-owned businesses scale operations. I didn't cold pitch. I didn't network. I reached out to people I'd helped for years, quietly, without charging. And one by one, they signed on. You get it, one founder told me. You listen, said another. Within 4 months, I had a full roster. All word of mouth. 3 months later, I launched Kindled, a digital platform designed to match women founders with fractional operational support, strategy, systems, and mentorship. No frills. Just function. I didn't announce it with fireworks. I sent an email to 5 women I believed in and asked them to try it. They loved it. They told their friends. By month 2, I had 700 users. No VC money. No hype video. Just value. Just truth. Back home in Tucson, no one asked what I was doing. They still sent Ryan-centered group texts. Still CC'd me on family logistics. I didn't reply. I didn't explain. One night, Mom texted, "Hey, are you still in that little office job?"
I didn't respond.
Instead, I transferred the $150 auto debit that I'd been sending her monthly and canceled it. I wasn't angry. I just realized I didn't owe her my earnings, my energy, or my silence anymore. That silence became my armor. When people don't hear from you, they start talking. Where did she go? Is she okay? She used to be so involved. I was involved, but never in myself. Now I was. And I wasn't coming back. One evening, I stood on my tiny Denver balcony, laptop closed, coffee in hand, inbox cleared, and I looked out at the sky, streaked with orange and purple. I smiled. I wasn't running away. I was building forward.
I didn't yell.
Didn't warn anyone. Didn't declare my reinvention. I just became it. And that was enough. It started with a LinkedIn message, which was strange because I wasn't even on LinkedIn anymore. I had deactivated my account after leaving Blue Ridge, but somehow, the message had come through my website's contact form. Subject: Are you Alyssa Cooper from Blue Ridge Strategy? The name underneath it was Savannah Myers. I stared at it for a second, debating whether to open it. Then curiosity won. Hi, Alyssa. You might not remember me, but I interned at Blue Ridge for 2 months back in 2019. We only had a few brief interactions, but I've never forgotten them. I'm now working on my own startup, a digital platform for neurodiverse students, and I've been looking for someone who gets operational structure without making it cold or corporate. When I mentioned this to my advisor, she said, "There's a woman in Denver. I think she used to be in strategy. Find her." She changed the entire trajectory of my nonprofit.
Turns out, she was talking about you.
Would love to connect, even if it's just to say thank you. You made a bigger impression than you probably realize. I read the email 3 times. Savannah? The intern I once stayed late to help with her presentation slides? She'd been so anxious. Kept apologizing for things that weren't her fault. I had brought her coffee and said, "You belong here. Speak like you do." That was it. A 10-minute kindness, 5 years ago. And now, it had come back to me. Not as applause. Not as validation. As recognition. Not from the people I had bent over backward for, but from someone I had lifted up without asking for anything in return. A week later, I was in a virtual call with Savannah. She looked older now, more confident, glasses perched low on her nose as she scribbled ideas into a sketchpad. "I almost didn't reach out," she admitted. "I wasn't sure if you'd remember me." "I do," I said. You had that nervous energy that made people underestimate you. But I saw how sharp you were. I always knew you'd build something big." She smiled. And then she said something that caught me off guard. When I mentioned your name in a room full of founders, one woman literally gasped and said, "Wait, Alyssa Cooper helped me restructure my entire org after I almost burned out." Another added, "She saved my business." And I just sat there thinking, how is someone like you not famous yet?
I didn't know what to say.
For so long, I had been invisible, present but unseen, useful but unacknowledged. Now, people were saying my name in rooms I'd never walked into. Not because I was loud, not because I was famous, but because I helped. And I didn't ask for credit. Later that night, I checked the analytics on both my companies. Emberline had doubled its client interest. Kindled had just crossed 2,000 signups. And I hadn't posted a single ad. It was all referrals. Quiet ripple effects. From the people who once saw me in the shadows and were now shining a light back. I never tried to be the hero of anyone's story. I just didn't want anyone to feel like I did, invisible in rooms they helped build. But somehow, in making others feel seen, they remembered me. And now they were seeing me back. It started with a tag on Facebook. A family friend had shared a business article titled "The Quiet Empire of Alyssa Cooper," and my name was trending in the comments. I hadn't seen it, but Mom had. So had Jonah.
And Ryan.
And suddenly, my silence wasn't peaceful to them anymore. It was dangerous. 2 days later, I got a group text from my mother. "Alyssa, can we have a quick call tonight? Just to reconnect. Things have gotten messy." No apology. No acknowledgement of what they'd done, or not done. Just messy. Like I had spilled juice. I ignored the message. The next morning, Jonah emailed me. Subject: "Let's reset. Hey, just wanted to say I've been following your work. Congrats. It's honestly impressive. I think we got off on the wrong foot back in the day. A lot of pressure, deadlines, miscommunications, you know how it is. If you're open to it, maybe we could jump on a call?
Clear the air.
The industry's small. Never know when paths will cross again." I stared at the screen. This was the same man who once laughed in my face and said, "You're not leadership material." The same one who excluded me from meetings and claimed it was to avoid confusion. Now he wanted to reset. I didn't reply. Not because I was bitter. Because I wasn't. I wasn't angry anymore. Just clear. Later that week, Mom called. I didn't answer. So she left a voicemail. "Hi, sweetie. I saw your article. Your photo looked so professional. I didn't know you had started something. It's just, well, your cousin Jessa shared it, and now everyone's asking me why I didn't say anything. Anyway, can we maybe have dinner next weekend? Just us girls. Like old times? Like old times? The times where I paid the bill? Where she gushed over Ryan and barely asked how I was." I deleted the voicemail. Then came Ryan, the golden child. He sent me a DM on Instagram, which he hadn't done in over a year.
Yo.
"Heard you're running companies now.
Wild. Didn't peg you for the CEO type LOL.
Anyway, fam's kinda salty you ghosted. Mom's taking it hard. Maybe just shoot her a text so she chills? Cool if not. No pressure. No pressure. Just guilt. Wrapped in casual." I didn't reply to him either. And finally, the mask cracked. The next morning, I got a follow-up text from Mom. "Did you have to ghost us? People are talking. I saw your name on Reddit. Someone said you hinted about your family in a podcast. I don't appreciate being portrayed unfairly." There it was. Not "I'm sorry." Not "I see how I hurt you." Not even "let's talk." Just image management. Control. Damage control. I took a long breath. Then I opened my email and quietly blocked 3 addresses: Mom, Jonah, and Ryan. No drama. No rant.
Just done.
That evening I journaled. One line over and over. They want access to my life, not accountability for theirs. And I wasn't offering access anymore. It was late. Past 11 p.m. I was sitting in my apartment, laptop open, candles flickering, lost in spreadsheets and onboarding forms. Running 2 companies had become second nature. Not easy, but aligned. I was tired, but not drained. For once, my work fed me. Then, a soft ping. An email notification. I almost ignored it. But something gentle and curious, made me check. Subject: You probably don't remember me, but I remember you. My heart paused. I opened it slowly. The message was from Elena Ramirez. I blinked at the name. It didn't register at first. Then I remembered. Elena was a mother who once came through the nonprofit arm of a consulting agency I briefly worked with before I quit due to ethics concerns. She had been desperate for help. Her daughter had autism and was being pushed out of school because the district didn't want to provide accommodations. I had quietly advised her on how to advocate, which laws to cite, and even drafted emails late at night. Off the record. It was 5 years ago. Her message read, "You once helped me when no one else would. I was just a terrified mother with a daughter who was being erased from the classroom. You didn't make me feel like a burden.
You didn't charge me.
You just listened. And you gave me back my fight. My daughter is now thriving in a magnet school. She's building robots. She's reading at a 10th grade level in 6th grade. Last week, she was asked to speak on a panel for women in STEM. She said, 'I want to be someone who helps people who feel invisible.' And I thought of you. I don't know how many people tell you this, Alyssa, but you matter. You changed our lives. And I just wanted you to know you were never invisible." I covered my mouth. And finally, the tears came. Not out of grief. Out of relief.
Because someone had seen me. Not the resume.
Not the companies. Not the results.
Me.
I walked out onto my balcony. The Denver night was quiet.
Cold.
I leaned against the railing and just breathed. Somewhere out there, a little girl was building robots because I took 20 minutes to care. Somewhere out there, a mother slept peacefully because I told her she wasn't alone. And now, they remembered me. Not because I was loud, but because I was real. My phone buzzed again. It was Savannah, the intern from earlier. She had sent me a voice note. Her voice was soft, shaking. "Hey, just wanted to say, I know we're working together now and it's all professional. But I hope you know you changed the way I see myself. I used to think I had to earn people's respect. But you gave it to me from day one. You didn't just save my career. You saved my confidence. And I'll never forget that." The screen blurred. I sat down. And I felt something I hadn't in years. Not ambition. Not revenge. Not resilience.
Peace.
Because I had never needed them to validate me. The right people had always known.
And now?
They were saying it out loud. The invitation came on a cloudy Tuesday. A cream-colored envelope slipped under my office door. No name. No return address. Inside was a printed letter on thick paper. It read, "We're planning a small family reunion next month at the lake house. It's been too long. We all miss you. Please come. Let's heal. Love, Mom." Attached was a photo.
Old.
Taken 10 years ago. There we all were, seated around a fire pit, marshmallows in hand. Me, laughing hard. Ryan holding a guitar. Jonah and his wife, side-eyeing the camera. Mom in the background, wine glass raised. But when I looked at that photo now, I didn't see warmth. I saw performance. Smiles stretched over silence. Love measured by usefulness. Connection based on control. I folded the photo neatly, placed it in my desk drawer, and stared out the window for a long moment. Then I opened my calendar and scheduled a team retreat that same weekend in Sedona. We were overdue. And I'd rather spend those days with the people who made me feel alive, not the ones who taught me how to disappear. A few days before the reunion, my phone rang again. I didn't recognize the number, but something made me answer. It was Mom. "Hi, honey," she said, her voice overly sweet. "Just checking in to see if you got the invitation." "I did," I said simply. Silence. Then, "Well, are you coming?" I let the question hang between us like fog. And then calmly,
"No."
Another silence. Not shocked. Just surprised. "May I ask why?" I smiled faintly. "You can ask. But I'm not explaining. Alyssa, we're trying here.
No.
You're reacting. That's not the same. She exhaled sharply. This isn't fair. I'm your mother. I know, I said gently. And I'm your daughter. But you didn't act like it when it mattered. I said I was sorry.
No.
You said people were talking. That's different. And then, for the first time in my life, I ended the call. Not in anger. Not with a scream or a slam. Just a quiet click. I didn't need the last word. I didn't need her to get it. That weekend in Sedona, I stood on Red Rock with the women I now mentored, each one radiant, brilliant, brave. We held a silent moment of gratitude before the sunset. And I felt it in my chest, that divine, unmistakable confirmation. I made it. Without them. Despite them. Beyond them. And I never looked back. If you've made it this far, maybe you know what it's like. To be underestimated. To be told, quietly or loudly, that you're not enough. Not smart enough. Not tough enough. Not man enough. To be laughed at behind closed doors. Or smiled at while being doubted. To give everything you have, and still be the one left out of the photo. The one whose name is left off the list. The one they call too sensitive when you finally speak up. If that's you, I want you to hear me now, not as a voice in a video, but as a woman who's walked that lonely, silent road. You are not crazy. You are not too much. And you're not imagining it. They saw your light, and instead of honoring it, they tried to dim it. Not because you were small, but because you were already growing into something they couldn't control. They said I'd never run a company. So I ran too. But here's the part they don't tell you. Success isn't about proving them wrong. It's about finally realizing you were never broken to begin with. You were just in the wrong room, the wrong circle, the wrong silence. And the moment you stop shrinking to stay in places you've outgrown, you begin to soar. So if you're standing on the edge of your next chapter, wondering if it's worth walking away from people who never saw you, let me say this. Sometimes not showing up is the most powerful thing you can do. Sometimes silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And sometimes the best revenge is becoming so deeply yourself that they can't even recognize the woman they once tried to break. You don't need their permission. You don't need their applause. You already have everything you need. You are the proof. You are the miracle. And your story? It's only just beginning.